I was looking yesterday for my beret and I couldn't find it. I've been out of the military for about 31 years now, and I've been able to put my hands on it anytime I wanted it up until just, I don't know, maybe a couple weeks ago. So must have stored it somewhere, but I wanted to tell you a story. So without the beret and a long beard at this point, we'll have to tell the story a different way. So buckle up, let's have a quick story. All right, guys, shalom, shalom. It's good to be back with you, and I'm going to try to keep this one quick because dinner is almost ready to hit the table, and my goal is to shoot this thing in a hurry. So for a quick one, guys, I want to talk to you a little bit. I want to talk specifically to the men. I want to talk to you about why you do what you do. What is your purpose? And I want to start with a little bit of an illustration. And since I don't have my beret, I'm going to use something a little bit different for my illustration. Way back in my closet, deep in the recesses of the closet, is what remains of my Class A uniform from when I was in the military. This technically was an updated Class A during when I attended chaplain candidacy course during seminary a few years after the military. I tried going back in as a chaplain. It was not the Father's will at the time. But one of the things that's interesting about men, and something that particularly motivates me, of course, is awards or accomplishing something. And so as an ROTC cadet, it was highly unusual to be able to get either airborne school or air assault school. And yet during my time as an ROTC cadet at little tiny Erskine College in western South Carolina, I had the opportunity not just to earn my airborne wings right here, but also I attended air assault school. And also during that time frame was blessed to be able to go spend a month in Alaska training in the Northern Warfare Training Site for their summer course as a cadet. Very, very unusual, but I'm an overachiever, have always been. But, you know, these things right here, I had to work very hard to get them, and they signify something. Anybody who's been in the military looks at them and recognizes immediately what they are. And then, of course, later on, I had the EFMB, the Expert Field Medical Badge, and then as having served in the 82nd in combat, have the Combat Medical Badge to go with it. During Desert Shield, Desert Storm, after Desert Shield, Desert Storm, I was put in for a Bronze Star. It was downgraded to a Meritorious Service Medal, which is a lot. For that event, it was a lot for a second lieutenant. Pretty heavy stuff. Would have loved to have seen the Bronze Star, but instead my battalion commander called me in and he said, you know, I couldn't get you the Bronze Star, but I want to give you something else. What do you want? And I said, I want to go to Ranger School, sir. And so ultimately that became a reality. It was a very, very hard course. You hear me tell stories periodically from it. But the bottom line is this. These are awards that demonstrate a little bit about where I've been, a little bit about what I've done, and a little bit about the person that I am. It's a testing of my mettle, if you will. All of those put together, and maybe $1 might get me a cup of coffee somewhere. But they're awards, and I worked hard to get them. And if you look at it, you go back at men are motivated by that sort of thing. You go back and look, for example, at Boy Scouts with badges and with awards and all of these sorts of things. You go, or you look at a different form. Many of you can relate with this. How many of you have been playing pickup basketball in the yard, or down at the basketball lot? And everybody wants to play for that last shot, and you want to hit the shot and get the glory, right? And the dream is to be in a big game. You want to be like pull a Michael Jordan, greatest of all time. and having the ball. What did he want? He wanted the rock in his hands when the game was on the line. Same thing. You can think about that in football. You can think about that in baseball. You can think about that in so many other sports where there's that opportunity for glory, for recognition, for accomplishing something that stays with you the rest of your life. And every man can relate to that. Every man can relate to that. Well, I want to tell y'all that, one day they'll put me in the grave, and, all of that stuff will wind up in somebody's closet, or, it'll wind up in a collection somewhere, or it'll just rust away. It will, moths and rust and all that kind of stuff. But I discovered a number of years ago, something more important, something much more important that will not rust and that lasts forever. And I want to share this with you because I want to challenge you men particularly to this same mindset. Every book, hold 1 second right there. Just today, I got in a new shipment of books. I've got a whole new shipment, and so for Patreon supporters that have been waiting for a signed copy, that's going to be coming out at the patron level. It's, quick plug for patrons. One of the benefits is a personalized signed copy of Authority, Headship, and Family Structure. But every book that I send out, I sign it with the verse that drives me today. That is the award. Can you imagine for all eternity having an award, not unlike those right there, but something that marks you so that when people look at you, they go, he's one of them. He's one of the guys that did it. Right? Let me share a passage of scripture with you right quick. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 58. Every time I sign a book, I always add Isaiah 58 verse 12. Isaiah 58 verse 12. But I want to give you a little bit of context surrounding that. And in this passage of scripture, this is about the restoration of the house of Jacob, or it's going to be both houses of Israel. And it's part of it is declaring aloud the transgression of the people, and or declare to my people their transgression, and to the house of Jacob their sins. And it goes down discussing a number of different aspects, particularly talking about fasting in this early portion here. But I want to come on down. I'm going to start in verse 58, or chapter 58, verse 9, and let's read down to, so we get the contextual flow coming into the verse that I want to draw your attention to. It says, "Then you will call, and Yahweh will answer. You will cry, and he will say, Hineni, here I am. If you remove the yoke from your midst, from pointing the finger and speaking wickedness, and if you give yourself to the hungry and satisfy the desire of the afflicted," pour out to others, work, do what it takes to help others, "then your light will rise in darkness, and your gloom will become like midday. And Yahweh will continually guide you and satisfy your desire in scorched places and give strength to your bones. And you will be like a watered garden and like a spring of water whose waters do not fail." And then listen to this. "Those from among you will rebuild the ancient ruins. You will raise up the age-old foundations, and you will be called the repairer of the breach and the restorer of the streets in which to dwell." These are the people right here. This is an award. This is a recognition. This is saying you're going to be called these right here when you start doing what it takes to restore Kol Israel and walk in righteousness and do the things he calls you to do. "Those from among you will rebuild the ancient ruins. You will raise up the age-old foundations, and you will be called the repairer of the breach, the restorer of the streets in which to dwell." We're going to get to the next couple of verses here in just a second, but I want to talk to you for a second. Men, for all eternity, I believe that this right here is one of those awards where for all eternity, I mean, when we see Avraham, or when we see Yaakov, or when we see Melech David, King David, we see Gideon, or Yehoshua, or some of these other great warriors that we know of from Scripture, when we see them in the kingdom, we're going to be like, hey, look, there's so-and-so, there's Gideon. Man, I want to go talk to him and find out what it was like. How did he do that? How was it that he heard the call of the Father, accomplished what the Father did in the face of odds where even in his town, everybody but his father wanted to kill him because he had torn down the Asherah and the Baal and had destroyed it, right? And yet, for all eternity, his name is written in Hebrews chapter 11, the great hall of faith. Do you want to be one of those people? Because this right here says that when we get to the kingdom, or it's talking about those who will be pointed out, and it'd be like, hey, psst, psst, there's so-and-so. He was among those who rebuilt the ancient ruins. He raised up the age-old foundations. He was a repairer of the breach and a restorer on the streets in which to dwell. If you want to live for something, if you want to aim at something that has eternal significance, something that will follow you long after the grave here, that's the thing you want to be aiming at right there. And listen, it continues. It continues. If because of the Shabbat you turn your foot from doing your own pleasure on my holy day and call the Shabbat a delight, the holy day of Yahweh, you call it honorable, and honor it, desisting from your own ways and seeking your own pleasure and speaking your own word, then then you will take delight in Yahweh, and I will make you ride on the heights of the earth, and I will feed you with the heritage of Yaakov your father. For the mouth of Yahweh has spoken. Guys, why do you get up every day? What is it? So many people get up and they just go through the motions and say, yeah, I just do this because it's the right thing to do. And that's not a bad reason to do it. But there's a bigger picture here. There's a bigger picture here. And the picture isn't just about getting Shabbat right and doing, going through the motions and doing it. It's looking around you and going, wait a minute. There's a kingdom to be restored. There's a people to be restored. We're doing this for the sake of our great King. We're doing this for his name's sake. There's purpose in what we do. And, I've done a couple calls to action among the warriors. This is another one of those. Who are the warriors? Nobody's going to look around in the kingdom and go, oh, wait, where are the do-nothings? Where are the guys that just barely got in by the skin of their teeth? Where are the ones that were the naysayers? If they get in, they're not going to be in the inner circle. I have to tell you, I don't want to be outside. I want to be standing with the men. I want to be standing among the warriors. When David talks about his mighty men of valor, had I lived in that day, I would want to be standing in that circle. Is that you? Are you motivated to do that? Do you desire to stand in the circle with the men? Or is it okay just to be on the outside looking in? Golf clap. Not me. And I challenge you men. Stand up. Take a bold stand. Make the changes in your household that need to be made. Make the changes in your life that need to be made. Make a commitment. You don't have to be an ass to do it, but you know what you do have to be? You've got to be committed. You've got to be firm. You've got to have a spine. And you stand up, and there are people around you that are going to give you a hard time initially, but after that, they back off. Because if you don't back down, you know what they'll do? They'll back down. Because you're going to be the man. Take a bold stand for the king and for the kingdom, right? Those from among you will rebuild the ancient ruins. You will raise up the age-old foundations, and you will be called repairers of the breach and restorers of the streets in which to dwell. I pray that be you. I pray you take the challenge and that you latch onto this thing and decide you're going to go for the gusto, the purpose of my life, because that's my life verse right there. Since we found Torah, that's all I can think about. Rebuilding the kingdom, restoring the kingdom, building bridges between people. One of the things that we're really good at, a lot of people, and there are people on my channel right here. I love you guys, but I'm going to tell you, some of you guys love division. You love trying to figure out how to sort yourself out from everybody instead of figuring out how to reach out and grab somebody, because there are a whole lot of things that we're divided over that aren't really salvation issues. They may be, some of them may be important. Some of them may not be as important as we think they are. And instead, we really need to focus on linking arms and locking arms, because there's an adversary out there that seeks to destroy. Instead, we need to be figuring out how to walk together as men, bold as lions, and be an army. It doesn't take many. Gideon had 300. He started with 30,000, but it was only 300. But I guarantee you, there wasn't division among them, and they weren't all asking around to say, how do you say the name? What's your calendar? Trying to see if they could figure out ways to sort each other out instead of leaving some of those things in the hands of the Most High. Let's stop doing that, and instead let's look at each other and go, how can we rebuild the kingdom? How can we restore? How can we create a place where others can come and learn and grow and be accepted and can have firm, good, quality leadership? And find out what it means to walk in the ways of the King. Yeah. Brothers. A brotherhood. Rebuilders of the ancient ruins who raise up the age-old foundations. Repairers of the breach. Restorers of the streets in which to dwell. For King and Kingdom, I bid you shalom.